Welcome to the Co-Parenting Conversations podcast, brought to you by the Center for Divorce Education. With renowned psychologist Dr. Donald Gordon, we will delve into the complex world of co-parenting during and after divorce and separation. Join us as we explore some of the emotional, legal, and practical aspects of parental breakups, helping you navigate this transformative journey with wisdom and guidance. Whether you're currently going through a divorce, contemplating separation, or supporting a loved one in their journey, the Center for Divorce Education is here to empower you with knowledge and offer you a roadmap towards a brighter future. The information presented in this podcast is intended for educational purposes only. The presentation of this material is not intended to constitute mental health therapy or to diagnose mental health disorders. The presentation of this material is not intended to constitute legal advice. Participants are encouraged to discuss specific legal questions with a licensed attorney of their choice.
Welcome back to the Co-Parenting Conversations podcast by the Center for Divorce Education. We provide online parenting classes for divorcing and separating parents. I'm Jamie, and I'm here with my colleague Chelsea today to discuss some very common issues between co-parents, which are putting the other parent down or questioning your children about the other parent. So we do get a lot of parent feedback from our courses asking about how to handle these situations. Chelsea, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So obviously it's a challenge to avoid voicing our opinion about our co-parent when something comes up that upsets us. It's natural to make snide comments and vent, especially in the heat of the moment. But specifically when we're speaking to our children, it's important that we prioritize them by biting our tongue. While it may be tricky, what's our top rule as parents?
Put your child first.
Exactly. So when you put down the other parent, you may make your child feel like they're in the middle. Whether you like it or not, it's a fact. Your child identifies with both parents. So you're essentially putting half of your child down at the same time, which creates a very deep wound inside of them that they could end up spending their entire adulthood stuck healing.
And a lot of parents don't realize that, or sometimes don't even realize they're putting the other parent down. And another common one is when the child is put in the middle by parents not wanting to talk to each other. So this is one of the first scenes from our Children in Between online program, where the parents aren't talking, so they use their son as a messenger for telling mom or dad that he needs his skates back or that dad will be dropping him off later at mom's. So instead of the parents discussing these matters, they have their son call the other parent to tell them and then badmouth that parent when the response isn't favorable.
There's a scene in SIBO and High Conflict Solutions that breaks my heart. It's when there's a little boy who comes home to his dad's house, and mom insisted to her son on him getting his dad to provide extra money to help pay for a field trip. Dad is bad-mouthing mom and venting about how he already pays enough in child support. And so they end up having a phone conversation where their son can hear. And then mom starts going off on dad's new girlfriend, and it's just so toxic. I think co-parents will feel frustrated with one another, sometimes rightfully so, but instead of confronting the issue with healthy communication, they avoid one another until they can't anymore, and their children are who end up paying the price.
Exactly. There is no good excuse for that behavior. Putting your child in the middle of your conflict by not being able to talk kindly about the other parent or just not talking about them at all is hurtful to the child. You know, kids should always feel like they can love both parents, regardless of what has happened. The child is what is important and how they feel about their parents and in return about themselves, right?
Agreed. I can say the largest reason I can genuinely advocate for these parenting classes is because parents will too often end up separating because of communication issues. And those problems don't just magically go away post-separation. In a lot of cases, parents just end up transferring the drama and nonsense they got tired of in the first place to their children. And our classes offer both parents basic and advanced communication skills so they can at least learn how to communicate as co-parents for the sake of their kids and be on the same page.
So let's talk about questioning the other parent. You know, it can be hard as a parent to not wonder about what goes on at the other parent's house, but questioning your kid on things like mom or dad's new relationship or finances are not appropriate for your child to have to explain. It puts the kid in a loyalty bind between mom and dad where they feel like they may get in trouble with one parent or the other for saying something.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's more common than some may think. What it boils down to is the only things that are appropriate to discuss regarding your co-parent's parenting time are things pertaining to safety, school, doctor's visits, or the child's general well-being. Boundaries are essential, and it takes time to master, but it's always best to err on the side of caution when what's at stake is your child's mental health and development. And I know that it's easier said than done, especially when there's anger or hurt between the parents. But you have to learn to know when to step back and admit that it's not your business anymore.
And I think the message Children in Between sends is that the biggest thing to remember is how the child feels and what position you're putting them in when you ask them personal questions about the other parent, like what they talk about or who they're seeing. And usually that is the number one thing that comes up in these situations, the other parent's new partner or who they're seeing. And obviously, it is important to feel like your child is safe and to know that they're around good people, but that is something that should be discussed between the parents and not the child.
Kids should never have to feel like they'll get in trouble or create an issue when discussing the other half of their life. Because what will happen is they'll learn to withhold information out of fear of their parents' reaction. And because they're blaming themselves in a way, right?
Right.
And that's a surefire way to create a wall in your relationship with your child. Our parenting classes teach a skill called active listening, which in this type of situation could look like the other parent told them they could watch TV, knowing full well that they were grounded at your house. This is not an invitation for you to vent or make comments about the other parent. It's not our children's responsibility to hold on to our emotions for us. Instead, you can use active listening and you can respond with affirmations that supports your child's feelings about the situation instead of interrogating them. Then, obviously, there's an adult conversation to be had between the co-parents.
Basically, in order to have a healthy co-parenting relationship, it is really important that you discuss and share things that are important for the other parent to know while keeping your child out of the middle, obviously. So children deserve to know that they're safe, where they will be living and when, and that they're loved. Everything else should be discussed between the parents. And we really didn't cover much here on how to deal with the other parent doing things like putting you down or questioning what you do, because in those situations, the only real thing that you can do is not do it yourself.
Handling situations like that can feel complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Communicate your boundaries and hold them. Anytime the topic gets off your children, bring it back on track. Be the adult. Treat your co-parent like a business partner, and that also helps, especially if the co-parenting relationship isn't civil yet.
To our listeners, if you would like to see scenes from our classes and learn more about the skills we're discussing, you can visit our website at divorce-education.com or check out our social media for more insight. We hope that this information was helpful, and we thank you all for joining us today. See you next time.